Hey, welcome to the Gathered for Fall collaboration. I am so grateful to be able to create alongside so many talented women. The way it works is we're going to start here at 4 p.m. today and tomorrow. And there will be three creatives that will follow after me, but you guys don't have to do anything. You guys are going to pop on and watch my video here, and then YouTube is actually going to take you from person to person to person. You guys don't have to do anything. If you're not able to stay for the entire event, no worries. I'm going to make a special playlist. So even if you come back, you can watch the replays in the order that everyone watched during the premiere. So, who's coming after me today, you ask? Well, let's see. So, right after me, there'll be Brenda from Country Girl Grandma, and then Robin from Robin's Creative Reclaim. And then last but certainly not least is Melissa Nadurak from Sentimental Salvage Designs. And that's who you guys will see today. Make sure that you pop in tomorrow so you can get the schedule and you can watch some more creative goodness. If you're not already, make sure that you're following these ladies. We have some really talented creatives joining us for this collaboration. So I found this tray at the thrift store and I love the warm color of it, and I thought it would be perfect for a fall flip. So we're going to decoupage just the middle part of this using several recycled papers. I'll be using the Roycycled industrial matte decoupage paper as the background for this tray, and then I'll also be going over the top with a portion from the recycled spring blocks decoupage paper. This half is really neutral, and I thought it'd be really easy for me to swing it towards fall. To prep my tray, I'll be using Wise Owl's primer in white, and I've also pulled out some paint colors. I'm going to be mixing my own paints today, so I've pulled out several colors, and I have primary yellow, which is like a cooler yellow, and then I have a warmer yellow. And I have some oranges. I'm kind of cheating. I won't be mixing my oranges necessarily, but I have a warmer red and a cooler red, and then I have a cooler blue and a warmer blue. So these are my primary colors. And then of course I brought in some of my own oranges because I'm cheating. And I also have some titanium white. And you guys will see I have acrylic inks, I have fluid acrylics, I have, regular acrylic paint. I have all kinds of things. But the one thing that all these colors have in common is that they are all transparent. You see that square right there? Because that square is empty, that tells me that this color is transparent. If that color was opaque, then that same square would be fooled in and it would be solid. So that's really important, and we'll go into that a little more later. But I have a lot of different paint colors and a lot of different paints, but we're just keeping in mind that all of them are transparent. That's the important part. If you don't have transparent paint, then you can use the paint that you have, and you can mix it either with your decoupage medium, with an acrylic medium, with a water-based sealer to thin it out so that it will be thin enough for you to be able to see through the paint. Um, Today I will be going over the top of my project with matte medium. I'll be honest with you, this is not my preference. I have moved my workshop several times over the last few weeks, and I cannot find my clear gesso. So the matte medium is going to be good, but clear gesso would be best, right? And today I'll be decoupaging using Pint Art's Decoupage Varnish and Glue to decoupage down on my tray, and I think that's all of my supplies. If we think of anything else, you guys, I'll add it as we go along. But let's get down to business. Oh, and I also have a missing spray bottle. To start my project, we're going to go ahead and we're going to prime this first. And this is going to do two things. This is a bonding primer, so it's going to make sure that everything bonds to my metal, and it's white. And so it's going to also create a light background so that everything we do on top really highlights the artwork of the decoupage paper. Now that I have a coat of primer on here, I'm ready to decoupage. You'll notice that it's not perfect, but it's okay. We're working with a darker paper, and so this coverage will be fine. My first step is going to be able to figure out which part of the paper that I want to show. And I know that this is industrial, but the orange to me makes it feel like fall. So I'm going to run my fingers around the edge of this. So that I have an idea of where to trim. This is a pretty ornate piece, and so I'm not going to try and trim it perfectly. I just need to know about where I need to cut. And you guys can see that I have the markings all the way around the paper. So I'm not going to cut it perfectly, but I am going to try to cut it pretty close. You'll notice that I didn't try to cut it perfectly. It's just too ornate and there's too much room for error. So I'm going to go ahead and decoupage it down, and then I'll come in later with a knife and I'll trim it after I've done decoupaging it. So I'm going to start by misting my paper, and again I'm going to be using Pin's Arts decoupage and glue. So let's mist the paper, and I am going to allow that to stretch. And one thing to note about this is because it's so dark, there's a lot of ink sitting on top of this paper, and so it's going to sink back a lot slower. So you want to be patient and allow time whenever you're working with a dark paper for your paper to stretch, or you can just mist the back. And when I'm decoupaging this, I'm going to make sure that I only get medium where I want it, right? I don't want to end up with my paper sticking somewhere where I don't want it to stick. So I'm going to be super careful when I'm laying down my medium that I'm only putting it where I actually want my paper to stick. I'm going to make sure I'm going to end this row in a straight line right here. And I'm always going to look from the side to make sure that I have everything covered. And then taking my brush, I'm going to work from one side to the other. Now, because these edges are scalloped, I'm likely going to have to come back and tack those edges down a little bit, and that's fine. So we have that all tacked down, and I'm going to go in with my dryer, and I'm going to I hope you're enjoying this free tutorial. If you love the decoupage paper that I'm using, you guys can find your own stash. You can find more designs and a list of retailers at roycycled.com. I'm going to dry this really well. Now we'll dry, and you see how my edges have lifted up. So I'm just going to go in with a smaller brush, and I'm going to add some more along the edges and get them to tack down. While this is drying, we're going to work on the next part of our project, and that is the Roycycled Spring Block Decoupage paper. I love, love, love this floral so much, and this is the piece that we're going to be using. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut out the piece that I plan on using. And again, I still have all of this to use for another project. Now I'm going to be putting this on top of that, so I'm going to use the brush method, and I'm going to go around with the brush, and what's going to do two things. It's going to allow me to create a nice organic edge, which is going to make it easier to blend my paper, and it's also going to give me control so that I can control exactly what I'm cutting out. So I'm just wetting my brush, and I'm going to run it along the line of this flower. and I'm going to be able to cut that as I go. The longer the water sits on the page, the less control you have. I'm being pretty meticulous here. Using an actual line brush is nice because it holds a lot of water in the belly of the brush, even though it's smaller, which enables you to work longer before you have to re-dip your brush, so you get more done faster. So what do y'all think so far? I hope you guys are enjoying the tutorial. If you love my teaching style and the information that I give, check out my decoupage masterclass below. I go over so many things about decoupage. Whether you're a beginner or you've been doing it for a while and you're looking to level up, I have something for you. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to decoupage it right on top of my decoupage. Now this is a warm background, so I know I'm going to have to come in with some paint at the end and kind of blend it with my background, but I'm okay with that. Now, this is a pivot. I've decided after I started misting my paper that I want to paint the flowers white. So I am going to attach it to this piece of plastic so that I don't tear my paper in the process of making this pivot. And I'm only going to paint behind the actual artwork. I'm not going to paint the surrounding paper. It was here that apparently my conversation went completely internal and I just stopped talking. I'm going to dry my medallion before applying the decoupage medium onto the back of my medallion so that I can use the plastic to help me position it on my tray. I just want to say for the record that apparently between the time that I went to bed last night and woke up this morning to make the video, I somehow decided to make this the most complicated project ever. Had I had the opportunity to do this again, I would simply have decoupaged the spring floral on the tray, sealed it, trimmed it, and then painted the beautiful flowers. But I digress. Now that I have a nice even layer of Pent Arts decoupage varnishing glue on the back of my medallion, I can apply it to my tray. Because the plastic is clear, I can see exactly where I want to lay my medallion, which is super helpful. All I have to do is apply pressure and it's attached. So once I get my medallion down, I'm going to cover it with some more of the decoupage varnishing glue before drying that and going over it with the matte medium. Again, my clear gesso would have been my best option, but I wasn't able to find it. So the matte medium will be fine. When applying my product over my tray, you'll notice that I'm not just going over the medallion, I'm going over the entire tray. Whenever I'm layering products or on a project, I usually try to maintain a similar sheen across everything so that you can't tell that something is being stuck on another layer, that it all looks like it's emerging from the same place. Now that everything is dry, I can start painting. I do want to emphasize again that I'm using paint that is transparent. That means that you can see through the paint to the line work underneath. The thing about the Roycycled paintable designs is that all of the shading and the highlights are already there. So by glazing with transparent paint, you're just adding the color and still being able to maintain the details. A way that you can try and maintain your highlights if you choose is you can actually use a dry brush to actually remove paint or abstract paint from your surface so that you can maintain those highlights, but you really don't even have to do that. I'm going to start off with this warm yellow over everything. I like the idea of using yellow on this piece because it's going to look good both under the orange of the flowers and the green of the leaves. Now to paint the flowers, the absolutely fun part. I'm putting out some of the oranges. I have my yellows, and I'm also going to put a tiny dab of blue. This is going to help me to create my greens, and it's also going to help me dirty up my orange just a little bit so that it's not too bright. I'm also using some acrylic medium to thin out my paints because I really want to make sure that my layers are really, really transparent. Glazing your paintable papers like this, A, is so fun, and B, is so easy. The paint is so thin that you can see right through it. So you can add on multiple layer of glaze color until you get the exact finish that you want. Here I'm mixing my orange. I'm actually mixing my green for my leaves. I don't want it to be super bright though. So you'll see me mixing in my blue and my yellow, but I'm also mixing in some of the orange. The other reason is because this orange I'm going to be using on my blossom. So by mixing in a little bit of the orange into my green, I'm making sure that my colors all look good together or that they're harmonized really well. You'll note that when I'm painting my leaves, every time I go back, I remix my green again and again. The reason for doing this is that I can create small shifts in the colors that I'm laying down so that there is some variety in the colors that I'm actually putting on my piece. This goes a long way to making your project look more beautiful. Once I get my leaves done, I can move on to the blossoms. I'm so excited. I'm mixing some orange, but I'm not using the orange directly from the container or the tube. I still mixed in a little bit of that green with my orange again because I want my colors to look like they all belong in the same place. This is going to be my first coat, and so I know that it's not going to give me the vibrancy that I want, but I also know that I can layer over multiple layers of transparent paint. I can continue layering more and more layers of transparent paint to get to the color that I want. Again, you'll notice that every time I'm going back to get more paint, I'm remixing my orange again because I want my colors to be slightly different as I look across my piece. It's important when you're layering on transparent layers like this that you allow your piece to dry in between layers. Otherwise, you're just moving around the same paint over and over again. So allow your layer to dry before going over with your next layer. That way, you're really intensifying the color every time you apply more. Once I get my blossoms all painted, I'm actually going to go in and go over the white of the paper using a black paint. My background isn't exactly black, but this will get me close enough that I think it'll look cohesive. I can even take this same black and create a glaze to go across all of my background paper so that even my background looks cohesive. Now that my background is painted in, I can see that I really like for my flowers to be a little bit more vibrant than they are. So I'm going to make a new glaze and I'm not going to mix it with any other colors because I really do want to capture that really bright orange. I don't have to worry about it being too bright because I have the more muted colors underneath. And the beauty of working with transparent colors is that the colors that are lying underneath will show through the new layers that you're laying down. So you really are building color rather than trying to get your color all at once. My last step is to go in with, well, almost my last step is to go in with some opaque white and add some highlights. So when I'm going in to add these highlights, I'm looking for places on my paper where there aren't any lines at all. Any place where there are a lot of lines or where they're tight together, that's where it's dark or where there are shadows. And the opposite of that are the highlights where there are no lines at all. So I'm just going in with my brush and I'm adding a few highlights to my piece so that it can pop off the page. Once dried, I'm going to go over and do one last glaze of color to unify my highlights so that they look like they belong, right, to this piece and it's not just bright white. When trimming your piece, you want to lay your knife down to the side and use the side of your project to guide your blade. I'm not going to really be able to trim this successfully because there's so much moisture trapped under the paper, but I did want to demonstrate what it would look like when you trim your paper. Notice that my blade is always facing away from me. Safety first. For my last step of this overly complicated project, I'm going to unify all of the sheens, right, that I have on my project by putting down a layer of matte medium. Unifying the sheen, right, whether it's matte or glossy or whatever you choose of your piece, is a really easy way to unify all your elements so that they look like they all belong on the same project. I wouldn't say that all of my experiments were successful here, but I did enjoy this project. Maybe on Sunday we'll talk about how to clean up your edges when you do get product where you don't want it. For those who've been with me for any amount of time, you guys know that I am so passionate about teaching. And the thing that I'm passionate about teaching lately is how you can mix your colors with confidence. So this is a course that I was privileged to teach in person in New York. And I quickly realized that this really is a full-on masterclass on its own. And so I'm currently working on several opportunities for you to be able to participate with learning this information. And it's a full masterclass with a workbook, and each section that we learn also has a super fun activity that goes along with it so that you learn the information and then right away you're able to implement it. That way it becomes internal to you and you're able to draw on the information whenever you need it. So keep an eye out for the Roycycled Mixing Color with Confidence course.